Hey everyone out there, how's it going? Ho ho ho, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, I don't know if that's a thing, Happy Hanukkah, Happy whatever the hell it is that you celebrate, Happy Holidays, Festivus, yes, that's a good Seinfeld reference there, Kim. But it is Christmas, so Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to everybody out there that is listening. You're listening to Screen Speak. It's I almost said the politics. That makes no sense. It's the podcast that is all about movies, life, and so much more. I'm Jordan Anderson. This is my podcast, and apparently you're listening to it on Christmas Day or maybe a day after Christmas. I don't really know when you listen to this, to be quite frank, but you're listening to it, and that's really the main thing. If you have not done so, please go ahead and follow and download episodes of Screen Speak on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Google Podcasts, or wherever you choose to get your podcasts at. It is the holiday season, so in fact, you're kind of obligated by society and the masses to be nice to people and do extra kind things, so I'm basically guilting you into following and downloading it. It's the Christmas spirit. Don't you want to be part of the Christmas spirit? You don't want to be against it? You want coal in your stocking? I don't even know if that's a thing, but hopefully that guilt trip worked and you hit the follow button, or you just deleted your app because you're like, I'm done with this guy. I don't know. I can't really tell you, but that's all I got for the plugs. So I just want to get into this movie and to bring on my guest, Kim Harford. She is back on the podcast after talking about, coincidentally, another holiday movie. We had talked about blah, 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 Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Hey, y'all.
Welcome back.
Glad to be back.
Yep.
I'm very excited to talk about the movie today.
What is the movie? Why don't you introduce it?
We are going to be talking about the great It's a Wonderful Life.
Directed by Frank Capra, released in 1947, January, I wrote it down, January 7th of 1947. Wow.
A little ways back, but doesn't seem like it.
Have you ever seen movies from the 1940s or that time frame?
A few, yeah. Especially a lot of, we watch a lot of the old monster movies and the old, horror movies.
Were those released by like the I don't even
some
know.
Of them were. Some of them, some of them were. I don't know how many, but we have watched some pretty old ones before.
And you're a fan of movies from that generation, maybe?
And I don't remember when the first Christmas Carol was out, that very, very original one, black and white. I love that one.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Oh, it's really good, but it's pretty old too. I don't know what date. I might have to look that up, but
well, I can say for like a lot of movies in the 40s, I try to like call myself a film person, but I'll be real, like there's probably so many movies around then that I haven't seen. I think if I maybe looked it up online, I could probably find maybe a couple that I've seen from this time period, but It's a Wonderful Life is certainly one of the few that comes to mind for that. But it's just really interesting to see that a movie like this, which is now, like 70 plus years old, if I'm doing my math right, it's just interesting to see how a movie like this is still talked about. It's, as they say, timeless. I think this movie, you could argue, has a timeless quality. It's very rewatchable. So I wanted to talk to you about that and see, one, if you feel that this is a timeless movie, and or what are your thoughts on the phrase timeless? Like, what makes something timeless?
I do agree that this is a timeless movie. In fact, I just saw they're going to actually be playing this at a movie theater, I think in Iowa City.
I have seen this on the big screen.
I would love that because I've never seen it on the big screen.
It's cool. It's very cool, but not the colorized version, right?
I don't know which one it was that they're playing, but I just
Black
saw
and
it.
White's the only way to go.
Yeah, it's like this week, and I wished I could go, but unfortunately it's a busy week. But yeah, timeless. I guess I don't really know how to describe it, but this is definitely one of those movies. I mean, I think everybody knows this movie.
Yeah, I think, when I think of timeless, I think when people use that expression when they're talking about movies, they're sort of just saying that it doesn't really matter the like what time the story is taking place in or things along that line. I think they're saying that there are themes and threads that run throughout the movie that it does not matter what generation are, they're tried and true to like the human experience or something like that. So I think there's a lot of deep themes in this movie that are just universal, and so there's that universal appeal which can make something have that timeless feel to it, meaning that there's still things in this movie that are just as relevant today as they were in the late 40s when the movie was shot and and released.
Absolutely. I mean, there's people still going through some of the types of things that the people in this movie did. So
that's not great.
No,
probably.
no,
Right?
no, it's not. I mean, there's a lot of happy parts in this movie, but there are some sad and
it's a pretty real movie for a couple things, and I mean it's something we'll get into a little bit later on. But I definitely think this is one of those movies that you could say is like I don't want to say it's exactly like this, but it's a message movie where there's a lot of messages and a lot of takeaways. Not every movie is necessarily aiming for that, but this is one of those ones where you'd be really hard pressed to watch it and not be like, ooh, I'm thinking about this or that or that or that or that. But it's very real, and as Kim was saying, this is ultimately, I would say, a feel-good, heartwarming story of triumph over adversity and things like that. But at the same time, it doesn't shy away from some of the real, kind of despicable, nasty nature of human beings. And I would also just say some of the hardships of life, especially the hardship that can be thrown at good people, the best of people.
I think we've all gone through some of the things that happen in this movie, whether it's you just have a year where things just aren't going right, or just, maybe you're missing somebody over the holidays. I mean, you're just kind of depressed, or, I mean,
Are you trying to sum up my 2021?
No, I'm not.
I was going to say, because let me see, partly depressed, missing somebody, tough year.
I get it. I know what you're talking about, and I feel for you, but it's all going to be better
it'll be fine.
By next Christmas.
All my personal relationship stuff will be okay.
Yep, everything will be good next year. So
no, I didn't mean to make it about
if we make it through December,
God forbid. We'll see.
You'll make it. You'll make it.
There's still time.
But no, I mean, and it's not just, through the holidays, but people can relate to this movie just going through hard times, growing up. There's times in your life, or being an adult, there's times in your life where things like this are going to happen. You're going to get down and you're going to feel kind of defeated, but
I think one of the, and again, I will get to more of like the specific messages I take away from this, but one of the things that I just feel like it's appropriate to talk about it now is I think what this movie has to say about sacrifice, and that to be good means that you have to do things that you don't want to do, and that you will struggle, and even though like you're doing all the right things in the world, you still could be miserable in the process, or something along those lines. I just think the movie has a lot to say about good people and their nature, and that even though they know this is going to be detrimental against themselves, something that they might do, they look to others first. And it's an interesting morality, I think, to explore, is that you could argue that, okay, well, that's good that he's a selfless person and whatnot, but at the same time, several of the decisions that George Bailey makes him not really, you could argue, have a fulfilled life to an extent. So that's what the movie's kind of talking about at the end, when they're talking about people over money and things along those lines. But, I mean, he gives up a lot. Yeah. The character gives up a lot, and he seems like he's thinking about himself from the beginning, because he's talking about dusting off the crummy town. He's like, I want to get the hell out of here.
He wants to travel and see different places.
He's got big ambition, but
going to college.
He can't help himself to see that he needs to stand up and do something, because like nobody else is doing it. So I just find, like, again, we'll talk about that more later, but it's just very interesting when you're looking at that aspect of the movie, just the subject of sacrifice. So
yeah, he definitely gives up a lot of, I guess, his dreams, really. to help others and to help people in his town and to help his family business. And
I think that's another thing to talk about, and I want to get your input on this. Apart from like what we were saying with him sacrificing, helping others in his town and whatnot, you mentioned him foregoing his dreams, right? I think this movie also illustrates really brilliantly, without actually saying it, which that's one of the things I love about a movie like this, is it doesn't get bogged down with exposition. It's letting the audience determine these things for itself. It's smart the way it's written like that. That's not always so obvious. Like, you have to interpret it yourself, which is great. But I want to talk about dreams because I think this movie also shows that your ambitions or your goals in life do change, and they don't, it's some of the cliches. It's like you look at your life 5 years from now, you'll be like, I never would have thought I would be in the place I'm at, or something like that. So your life does not always go to what you plan.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think there can actually be truly bitter disappointment from that. Some people can hold on to that and be resentful about it for years, mostly hating themselves, if I'm being real. I don't think they're looking always to blame others. They're just mad at themselves for not taking that shot.
No.
And I was just wondering, Kim, if you're okay with explaining, if you have anything, have there ever been points in your life where you felt like, I saw myself at a certain way, and you're like, well, either time happened or family or whatever, and you're just like, I'm just kind of now in a different row. I'm going down a different road.
Yeah. It's funny that you bring that up, because I've felt like that probably more often than not in my life, that, where I'm at now, I mean, as far as family wise, it's the perfect place, like my family, but, just my, everything else in life, there's, like you said, 5 years ago, I'm, would I have been where I'm at now? But yeah, that sums it up. Yeah, I've definitely had times, and like you said, you don't look to blame others for where you are as opposed where you thought you were going to be. But I agree, life happens, and things just kind of go down a different road sometimes than what you really expect.
Well, I guess, were you always self-aware? Were you ever at a moment where you realize something's happening that is going to be of monumental importance, where you're like, okay, like this, if I choose to do this, it's going to affect X, Y, and Z. If you felt that, or if you were self-aware about that, I mean, what did that feel like? What did you do?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's been different times in my life where, you can kind of choose, you want to go a certain path, but it's not really the path that is available to you. So, yeah, I mean, I've definitely had to make those decisions before, and sometimes it is hard because you really want to do something else, but...
Is the reason why you don't do certain things, like, would you say some of it's just because a better solution presents itself, or is it out of sacrifice, or is it just out of, like, the greater good? Because I'm sure there's a lot of variables.
I think a lot. Yeah, I think kind of a mixture of everything. I mean, I know some of the choices I've made in my life have to do with, this is what's needed at this time. So I need to do this to, help support family or help support friends or whatever. And a lot of it's that kind of just stuff comes up, and you need to you just need to jump in and do what needs to be done. So.
Have you ever had one where, like, even though, like, because it seems like you have a pretty, like, solid head on your shoulders when it comes to, like, just the acceptance of it, of, like, well, I might not really enjoy this, but I get it. You're kind of, you understand that these things happen. But has there ever been a point in your life where, you still always kind of hold on to that thing where it's like, damn it, I should have done that. Or something like that. I don't know if you want to get really specific and share something.
I mean, yeah, like, I probably on a weekly basis, I feel like, if I just had done this, or, I guess, there's different dreams you have, and I guess I always still kind of hold to some of those dreams. I'm getting older, but I feel like I'm still at a point in my life where I could still follow some of those dreams and still
Okay.
do some of those things that I've always wanted to do.
Well, let's talk about this because little George Bailey had some dreams. He wanted to go to Europe and build skyscrapers and all kinds of crazy things.
Yep.
Young Kim, what were some of your like? I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna like what were some of those things?
Gosh. Okay. So when I was little, I two things I wanted to do that I can remember. I wanted to work with animals. I always loved horses, so I wanted to either be a cowgirl or a veterinarian. That's kind of one of my earlier things. But then I realized soon on that I didn't think I could be a veterinarian because I wouldn't be able to put animals to sleep. I'd be just losing it. I wouldn't be able to do it. So my second thing that came along at a young age, I've always been a big fan of like law enforcement and police officers. And so growing up, as I got a little older, even into like my high school years, I wanted to go that route. And what made you change that? I think it's just life just happened. I got married pretty young, and I'm like, I was at the point where I'm like, I need to just get a job right now and just
make ends meet. Right?
Just let's just get our get this
some
going.
Sort of a foundation under your feet.
Yeah, and it's always one of those things where you're kind of like, oh, I'll do this for now. I'll do this for a little while, and then in a couple years down the road, I'll go for what I what I really want to do. And then life just happens, and you get married, you have kids, and.
But you still seem like a person that, like, now, granted, I'm not trying to, like, make you bummed out or anything like that, but even if you might not be, like, as a, in your profession doing something that you're like, okay, like, this is, like, my absolute passion, like, anything like that, you still feel like you can channel things to make yourself feel fulfilled, because I know that you're involved with a lot of things in the community and things like that, so, like, you have ways to still channel that good energy that makes you want to be motivated.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I've actually done for those things that I always wanted to do in life. I now do some of that stuff as a volunteer.
Yeah.
So I still get kind of that fulfillment, without having to totally change my career. And after all these years, I still get to have a piece of that. And, so, and, a lot of the things that I'm interested in, there are ways to volunteer with those things. So, that's what I've turned to. I've turned to volunteering.
Well, volunteering something, I mean, I like volunteerism. I do support it. I try to do it when I can.
Yeah.
And I always try to encourage people, especially people that either are like, like lonely, or maybe they do feel like that they don't really have like a group or maybe like a commonality to unite around something with. Like, there's so many organizations. There's so many organizations, and I grant you that, like, not all of them are gonna, like, you're not gonna make $1 million off of a lot of these places. It's not really about that, but you can get beneficial experience and learn things and meet important people that can, take you maybe to a different place in your life than you maybe didn't think that you'd be at. So.
And just the reward of things that you do as a volunteer too, just seeing the people that you're helping or being in the community and being an advocate for different, organizations, and a lot of that's, good payment. I mean, you're a volunteer, so you're not getting paid per se in money, but your payment is kind of seeing how you can help other people.
Well, and definitely during the month of December, I mean, I'm not trying to be cynical at all, but certainly volunteerism and different donations tend to go up because of the holidays. Yep. But I am a pretty adamant person that you can act like it's the holiday season year round.
Yeah.
I don't really think that you need to just be generous 1 month out of the year.
No.
And I'm not saying even a lot of people want to be like that, but I think we all could stand to have a better reminder that Christmas does not need to come just once a year.
No.
Okay? It just doesn't.
Yeah. And me, I love Christmas. So I could totally celebrate Christmas all year round. I mean, I'll leave my Christmas lights up all year round. I don't care. But Christmas doesn't have to, and that season of giving doesn't have to be just 1 month out of the year.
No. Now, I did want to talk about because you had said some of your childhood aspirations. I gotta take.
Let's talk about yours. I
gotta
talk about yours.
I gotta take it down my wacky career path.
Yeah,
or
we gotta
my
hear
wacky
it.
aspirations path. I know from like a very like young age, like as a kid, there was definitely certain things that I would say loosely looked up to. I don't even want to say aspired to because it's not like I did anything really practical to try to get there. But like my very earliest memory is that I wanted to be a pizza delivery driver for a living because I was like, I like pizza. Driving seems fun. I get to eat pizza, and I get to bring people pizza. This sounds cool. And then, of course, you reach the age where you're like, okay, that's not really exactly going to be the... I've never heard of someone that, like, I've been a delivery driver for 30 years. Like, no, it doesn't really play out.
It's funny. I actually I wasn't a pizza delivery driver, but I was a parts girl delivery driver. So I used to deliver car parts to people. And
There's a person that
it was
does
actually
that?
a really fun job. I worked
You
with a lot of fun
deliver car
people.
parts?
Yeah.
That's a thing?
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
people.
who-
I think
who?
I think the auto parts stores still do it.
Oh.
Yeah,
I
like
mean,
businesses,
yeah.
like say your local, mechanic will call up and say, hey, I need, these parts, but they're busy, so they can't come and get them. So you send a person out
That makes
to
sense.
deliver the parts to them.
Oh, shit. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah,
but...
it was a thing. I did it, and it was actually fun. Winter time, not so much, but
yeah, probably not.
but summer, it was a really fun job because I was out driving most of the day. That was like one of my first jobs.
That is cool.
Yeah.
We could definitely talk more about
Yeah.
different jobs.
Yeah.
I've had a number of like just like fun like part-time jobs and whatnot in my life, but so I wanted to be a pizza delivery driver. Realized that was a foolish child thing, and then there was a period where I was like, oh, I actually wanted to be a priest or a pastor. That actually, I think that lasted for about. There was like a 1 to 2 year window where I wasn't saying I was taking it seriously, but I was like, I like the idea of it, and I went to private school and stuff like that. I liked the gospel and all that mumbo jumbo. So I was like, okay, that's kind of a thing. But then I'm like, okay, wait a minute. You have to be pretty. I don't want to say pure to do that kind of work, but you have to be like a pretty straight arrow type of person to do that. And it's not to say that I have like some crazy wild oats in me. I was gonna say,
is there something that I haven't heard?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so. But it's just it wasn't, that wasn't really something that was going to be for me. In fact, the longest like career thing that I thought I was going to be, I thought I was going to be a journalist. That's what I was actually serious about for a while, and through part of high school, I still thought that that's kind of what my path was. I actually did a job shadow at a local paper at one point, and I'm so glad I did that because it gave me exposure to like what it would be like to do that locally. And granted, I didn't like think, I probably could have thought like more long term and been like, okay, like this is a stepping stone, and like you do interning or yada yada yada. But all I really kind of focused on was the stories they were telling were not really things I was that interested in, and the pay was awful, hours were awful, and I was like, okay, like maybe this isn't gonna be for me. And then in my senior year of high school, I ended up studying graphic design, and that was actually a suggestion from my mom. She just knew that I had an artistic kind of creativity side in me, and that I like computers and blah, blah, blah. She's like, why don't you give it a shot? And for most of school, I was a pretty terrible student, and then I ended up taking that. It was like the very first thing I actually got like a straight A in without having to feel like I was trying that hard. And so that was sort of a sign to me that I was like, okay, like this is something I can kind of just naturally do and not feel like I'm having to really mentally struggle to try to get through it. So that was a good thing. And then pretty much I wrote that out through college. I mean, I have 2 degrees in graphic design, and I did it for a while professionally, and I still definitely utilize a lot of that stuff like in my daily life and whatnot, but I don't do graphic design for like a profession right now. But all I'll say with that is that as far as like the aspirational side of it goes, I've had different aspirations for where my life would turn out. Did I think I'd be where I'm at right now? No.
Same.
Definitely not. But I am also somebody that doesn't mind taking chances. I don't mind swinging for the fences, as they say, or taking big leaps. And I have some other big leaps in my life that are planned for the future. I'm just kind of waiting for the right time. But I always tell people around me, if I won't talk about it on the podcast, but if I get really in depth about the plans and whatnot, I always tell people, I'm like, okay, like, don't let me just like say all this and then be like, you're going to be like that guy. It's just like, I'll do it next year. Or I'll do it next year. It's like, no, if I'm still talking, it's like, if I'm still talking about this a year or two from now, like, no, you stop me and be like, Jordan, like, what happened to you talking about
you
that?
You need to do. Yeah, it's easy to do that though. I've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah. But I think we all do that for certain things, some bigger than others. But no, I still have some. We can talk about this off the podcast, but I still have some things that I actually have planned for 2022. I am hopeful that I can maybe do some of these things. We'll see. I don't know. But yes, no, I'm hopeful for that stuff. But let's get back to the movie. So
yes, it's a great movie.
So one interesting thing I actually found, and I did not know if you knew this, and I just found this out today from doing some research. So, did you know that this movie, as a blessing and a curse, had an issue with its copyright?
Yes, I did hear that.
Yes, and I found this actually really fascinating as I explored it, because I was reading an old review from Roger Ebert, famed film critic, and he loved the movie, and he was talking about the copyright and how he was saying, I'm kind of almost indirectly quoting him, he was talking about how the issues with his copyright actually led to a lot of its long-term success, but actually almost hurt it at the same time. And I don't know how exactly it panned out, but from what I read, it was saying that the movie was under a strict copyright law up until 1974. And then at that point, the studio that had owned the rights to It's a Wonderful Life, they just never bothered to renew it, and they just let it go up into public broadcasting air, which means that any television station or anyone out there could just grab it and put it out there. They don't have to pay royalties. They don't have to pay proceeds. They don't have to do shit. They could just display the movie and do that.
It's like you could just show in your living room to like 100 people.
Which... It's nice for like the sake of obviously it being able to be widespread without a bunch of people having to pay to do it, but then at the same time, obviously anybody that was attached to the original movie or anybody that behind that studio that was looking to make long-term profits on the back end, they basically just get hosed because they're not making any money off that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the movie up until that point, up until like I said 1974, it was essentially largely forgotten. From the research I had done, it was not like when it came out in 1947, it didn't do well. It garnered a couple Oscar nominations, but just because oh my gosh, who's the director of the movie? Frank Capra.
Yeah.
He had some critical acclaim from like Mr. Smith Goes to Washington and some other movies around that time, so he had some accolade on the critical side, but it didn't do well in the box office. And so I think it's well, hang on, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's just interesting to me that in the 70s this thing gets lifted and then a bunch of these places start showing it, and it's almost like the movie took on a life of its own beyond, and it wasn't even like a home rental thing. It's just something that television stations played, and then eventually it got caught on, and then eventually it became now what it is today, which is a annual tradition for a lot of families, and people love it. But I'm just curious what you think about that. It's just that the whole law aspect of this movie is really interesting to me.
Yeah, I had heard about that too, and yeah, it was interesting because it was like you said, largely lost for a number of years. I think when it first came out, I think a lot of people really liked it, but I think some people thought it was a little dark, maybe not your typical Christmas movie. It was a little more, a little more dark topics. And so I think it kind of not fizzled out, but I think it wasn't, it was popular, but it wasn't as popular as it could have been. And then it, was largely lost for a number of years. And then, once it resurfaced, which, I feel bad because, whoever had rights or was still connected to this.
Any stake in that.
Yeah, any stake in this, they were basically losing, getting.
You know something that's interesting, and if you don't mind, Kim, I'm gonna Google it because it's on the tip of my tongue right now, and I don't know, maybe you know. I have no idea. You know, so like the typical release structure now we all know is that movie comes out, presumably if it comes out in theaters first, maybe on a streaming platform, there'll be a physical media release like a month or two later, that whole thing.
Yeah.
I have no idea how movies back in the 40s, like if a movie like the VHS isn't around, how are they watching? Is there even home video?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only way you could go see it probably was at a movie theater.
I'm gonna look this up right now. Kim,
I
talk about whatever you want right now while I'm doing this.
I have to say that I think there was movie theaters back then, and that was one of the most popular things.
Sorry about those pop-up noises.
They were very popular for kids and adults because they didn't have as much, entertainment activities, I guess, especially with music and movies. So I would wager that you pretty much had to go to the movie theater and pay your, whatever it was back then, 10 cents to watch a movie, or 25 cents.
Yeah, I'm trying to, excuse me, I'm just trying to figure out, like, well, okay, this person's asking, like, how do people in the U.S. watch movies back in the 1940s, which I'm going to assume they just go to a movie theater, like you said, but I'm talking about home video.
And they also have, radio. I know a lot of the movies, some of the shows were broadcasted over radio.
Okay, so I'm going to read this, if this is okay. So, according to Quora, from some random user on there, I have no idea how authentic this is, but they asked, how did people in the U.S. watch movies back in the 1940s? I'm not going to read the rest of his little question, because that's the only one that matters. And some person, again, I have no idea if this is a reputable source, random dude, he wrote, your basic premise is correct. There was no way in the 1940s to watch a movie except to project it from a film reel onto a screen. That makes sense. However, this person continues to say that they did not necessarily mean, that did not necessarily mean that you had to go to a commercial cinema theater. Any organization or individual that had the proper equipment and sufficient funds, they could rent older movies from various film libraries. Okay, so film libraries. Okay. But in the commercial theaters, the program for an evening was normally a double feature, with one being a new movie on its quote-unquote first run, and the other an older film, sometimes several years old, on a second or third or more circuit of the theaters. That's interesting.
So very similar to what you would do at a drive-in theater. I don't know if you've gone to very many drive-ins.
When I was a kid, I went to a couple.
I love the drive-in theater, and that's usually how they do it. They'll do a double feature.
No, it's super interesting to me because I don't know if people think about this now or maybe they don't, but I know for myself, like when I think, like I look at my movie shelf even back there, I feel like so fortunate. I'm like, I can just pull any of these titles up anytime I want. It's so easy for me.
I was just thinking of that, yeah.
And then you look at streaming and all this stuff. I mean, shit, people don't even have to make an effort. Just point a button and you have access to thousands of titles.
That thought just popped in my head because, I have It's a Wonderful Life, and I can literally watch it every single night if I wanted to.
Of course.
And it's just right at my fingertips. And back when this movie first came out, you couldn't just do that. So that's probably another reason why movies back then didn't appear to be real successful.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and I don't have time to, really go into depth on it on this podcast, but we also don't know, at least I, myself, and Kim don't know. I don't know how they're judging this. I don't know what they do. I mean, they're probably strictly going off of the box office and what numbers were recorded at that time, but I don't even know how accurate it is.
That's got to be about right. I mean, just judging by how many tickets they had sold to the movie in different locations.
The business of movies is interesting, aside from the entertainment aspect, just the business of it. I'm not always somebody that gets super steeped into it, but specifically for older movies, I just think it's such a different time to consume entertainment, so I can't help but be very fascinated about just how it works from the back end.
Yeah.
Now, I told you that you need to come on this episode with a Jimmy Stewart impression, or James Stewart. Can I actually talk about that really quick before this
yes.
part? So this is always, like, I don't know the answer to this. Maybe you know this. So some people, as you know, call James Stewart Jimmy Stewart. Mm-hmm. I don't get it. There's no I. Why is he called Jimmy? Is this a thing that I don't understand?
James, people named James were very commonly called. I had an uncle.
Yeah.
And we called him Jimmy.
I don't get it. Do you understand?
I don't really know. It's kind of like Bob and what is it? What's the other name for Bob? Robert?
I guess.
Bob and Rob, and yeah, it's kind of like that. Yeah. James, Jimmy.
I don't get it.
I don't get it either because there's not really a like you said they're different letters. But
this is the same. This is the same person that says Richard is Dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who? Why? Why?
I don't know who invented it. I don't know where it came from.
I won't Google it right now because I'm sure somebody out there understands it. But like, to this day, I have a problem with it. Yeah, I won't do it. I'm just like, I'm not gonna call him Jimmy if their name is James. There is no I. If there's a way for me to shorten it, at least like the Rob Bob thing, I can like, okay, I'm like, it kind of sounds similar.
Because you would. Yeah, there's no. It's not J.
Well, to me, another.
You would have to call him Jam.
No, but like another example is people that are named William. They call him Bill.
Yeah, I don't know
why.
I don't.
I'm sorry. Like this makes me mad. Like I don't like this. Like it pisses me off. I do not understand it. It makes zero sense to me.
Yeah, I don't know where all that came from either.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just an idiot. I'm sure somebody out there is probably just like, well, gosh, like there's a reasonable explanation for it, but I don't know.
No, it's fun. It's funny because I have certain things like that just drive me insane, and they're the most random, weird things that most people are like, why? Why would that drive you? I don't know.
I think it's just it's either like the principle of it or the logic behind it, because like it just doesn't click in my head.
Yeah, I don't know where that came from, how the different names got.
I did not mean to go on a tirade about that. I don't know.
Now we know how you feel about
it's just
that.
Weird. But... It's just like name abbreviations or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Somebody out there that's listening, if you know a more reasonable explanation for this and can send it to me, let me know. The podcast email account is screenspeakpodcast@gmail.com. Drop me an email.
Yeah, it would be interesting to hear like kind of a backstory on how that
I'm sure it started somewhere. I don't think it just came out of thin air.
And I'm sure it started a long time ago because it's been I mean, I remember being I'm not that old, but I remember being a little kid and you know, people were calling like Richard Dick or Jimmy or
okay, I gotta talk about Richard quick. Okay. Sorry, Dick. Like, do you hate your children if you name them that? Like, let's just, like, why? Why in God's name would you call someone Dick?
I mean, I think years ago they probably didn't, but now, like, if you do that, I mean, you probably wouldn't. It's just like nowadays you have to watch what your kids' initials are going to be.
Do you? Is that a thing?
Sometimes.
Is there like if an you ASS, ass? Is that?
Like, well, we talked about one time, like, you know, like if the first letter starts with a B and the second letter starts with a J, well then your initials are BJ, you know, like
what is that? I don't know.
Or I mean there's just like you got to be careful what even like initials nowadays cuz they'll be like, "Oh, what's your initials?"
It's true. Well, cuz there's some people that have certain names where it's like like they could be made fun of easily. Mm-hmm. But anytime I always saw, like, someone named Richard, they're just like, yeah, my name's Dick. I'm like, okay, like, I know I'm supposed to, like, not be an immature person, but I'm going to laugh. Well, and, like, deep down inside, a part of me will laugh.
And I don't know. I don't know where that word, that name became, like, where along the lines of over the years that became, you know, a term for lack of a better explanation, your male anatomy. Right. I don't know where the name Dick became that. So back when, you know, in the 40s and 50s when people named their kids Dick, it wasn't a derogatory name.
Was it? Do we know that for certain?
I don't know. Maybe it was.
I don't know.
Maybe it was. I mean, I haven't seen very many 40s movies that use that reference, but...
I can tell you...
I don't know.
Well, I can tell you that, I mean, I don't have children yet. They ain't going to be named Dick or
No.
Richard. I promise you that.
No, I don't. Yeah.
Actually, in fact, speaking of future children names, and I will go back to the reason I brought up Jimmy Stewart.
Mm-hmm.
Any future kids I have, the naming thing's actually going to be interesting because my future wife is Brazilian,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not necessarily opposed to one of them having a Brazilian name.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's only fair.
Yeah, no, it is only fair, but it's just like I don't know. It's going to be interesting when I get to that point in my life where I want to do that, because I can almost promise you that Brazilian, that culture is going to be incorporated with their names, and I mean they're going to be bilingual and all that stuff too. But it's just going to be cool. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. James Stewart, I'll call him Jimmy. Whatever.
Yeah, let's talk about James Stewart.
So, the man has a distinct voice.
Mm-hmm.
I actually don't know what his accent is. Do you know what his, or let me phrase it to you this way. Maybe it's not an accent, and maybe it's just like a Christopher Walken, where like he just has such a distinct way of speaking that it's just him.
I think it's just him. I think he just has a very Christopher Walken.
Yes.
He's got a very distinct voice, but I don't think. Well, his is kind of. I think Christopher Walken isn't his kind of. I don't know, Bronx or New York kind of thing. I don't know. A bit of that.
I'm not going to even try to do an impression because I know a lot of people. It's very popular to do Chris Walken impressions.
Funny, yeah.
I can't do a good one, so I won't.
I'm not going to attempt it, but
no. But I'm looking up right now because
I could attempt it, but it wouldn't probably sound anything like
it. See, here's the thing. I'm looking it up because I want to have some fun for a moment here before we talk about some of the other parts of this movie. I think it'd be fun. He's got a very fun voice to try to imitate. Even if we botch it, it's going to be funny.
He has a great voice. I love it.
But I figure we could look up some lines from the movie, and then we can take turns saying them. I also realize that you're a woman, and like therefore might not sound exactly like him.
I will.
You can imitate
I will be
other
a
people
team
too.
player and give it a shot. Okay,
let's. I gotta find like one of his like wackier ones, I guess. Well, we don't want that. That's like the dramatic part. No. Actually, you know what? No, let's just. Okay. You know what he sounds like. Just think of things to say.
Random things to say in Jimmy Stewart's voice. I just called him Jimmy.
It's fine.
Because you were just got me talking about Jimmy now.
Oh, okay. So
it's
here,
I'll
start. I'll break the ice with this. Actually, it's kind of funny. Break the ice because he saves his brother Harry Bailey from drowning.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me think of something. It's gonna be bad, but I'm just kidding. I don't have to do that much prep. Well, hi there, Kim. How the hell are you?
Oh man, I don't even know if I could do this.
I heard you liked my movie. It's a Wonderful Life.
I can't even do it. I can't even begin.
Can you do Mr. Potter? How about him?
Mr. Potter.
Yeah, he's just angry and old.
Oh my god.
Can you do him?
No, I don't think so. I can't be angry and old, I don't think.
Can you? Okay, think of
I'm
not letting you off the hook.
I'll think of it. I almost was like close to just doing a James Stewart, but I don't want to insult because it will not sound like.
No, see, I don't mind insulting his legacy or anything like that. I'm sorry, anybody that's a fan.
No, yours actually was pretty good.
See,
I'm gonna have to think on this. I'll.
I'm not letting you off the hook.
I know.
Yeah.
You won't forget. I know.
But I will say, when it comes to like accents like him or anybody that talks like that, I just think that like it would be hilarious if just for like a day I talked like that. It's like, hey there, how you doing there? And like people are just like, what's going on, Jordan? Oh, not too bad. Are you having a good day? Well,
I think you should do that at work tomorrow.
Do you think so?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think you should just.
How do I start off the day? Well, good morning.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm going like like he doesn't make like a bunch of noises after that.
He doesn't make the noises after he says something, but.
Well, he says, geez, Clarence, I never thought about the bells ringing. I don't know.
Mary, why do we have so many kids?
That is one thing he says. Why do we have all these damn kids? And then like he talks to the teacher on the phone.
Oh yeah, he gets pretty.
He's just like, hey, you just let her go home and she's gonna get pneumonia.
Half naked.
Half naked. I don't know. He doesn't.
He gets a little upset.
I heard you do part of an impression. I think you tried to sneak one in there.
I did try to sneak it in, so there we go. I did it.
I still might not let you off.
I'll try to do another one later.
Okay, well,
I'm sure there's somebody that'll come up in this conversation.
We'll see. I'm gonna keep the impressions going. I'm sorry. I have to do it. So I did not prepare for any of these. So another one, you gotta love Old Man Potter.
I want to hear this because I can't even picture. I know he's old and grumpy.
I just think of a man that hasn't taken a good shit for a decade. He looks like he's constipated. He looks upset. He looks like he has probably a bad back. Mm-hmm. He has all the money in the world, but he just, he looks just like his face looks mad all the time. And so he's just like, well, George Bailey, I'm Potter, and Baileys are boiled on my spine. I don't know.
I think that sounded like, I just watched it yesterday and that does sound like him,
Yeah, he's just like mad. He's like, I don't have, there's a couple parts where he tries to do that persuasive scene where he's just like, George,
tries to kiss his ass a little bit,
Yeah, he's like, you want a box of cigars? I'll send you a box.
I'll send you a box, yeah.
What a kiss ass.
Yeah.
Mr. Potter
I'm going to pay you $25,000 a year.
That was probably a lot. I mean, it was big money
It was probably a lot back then,
I don't know.
Because he about fell out of his chair when you offered him that, so.
Did you ever see the SNL sketch with Dana Carvey where they do the alternate ending where they beat the shit out of Mr. Potter?
Yeah, and then they're throwing him around.
Well, I mean, think about it, because and it is an interesting point. Mr. Potter, I can't think. Well, I don't know why I can't think of his whole name, but whatever.
Was it Lionel? Oh, are you talking about?
The actor.
Like his new. Oh, his name in the movie.
Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. James Potter, whatever.
I don't remember his first name.
I think James Potter's Harry Potter's dad. So sorry about that. Point is though, Potter, he is one of the few villains. It's definitely the villain of the story that gets away. He does. He 100% gets away with it. He does, and that's... he does not get any punishment.
He does. That's always confused me. Like, why why did he get away with doing what he did?
But can I tell you something? I think it's actually important that he did not. Because I think it's, unfortunately, a real-life thing. Mm-hmm. Bad people get away with things. Yeah. It's not like the movies.
Yeah. They definitely made it true to life.
And I'm not saying like he's wrong. He's definitely wrong, but there are bad people that they 100% get away with the things that they do,
or at least for a lot of years.
Maybe like when they're dead, like something comes out about them.
Yeah.
You can open that up. Yep, she has been let out long enough.
Come on, kitty. Come on, join us.
Come on in. You want to talk? Hi there, Clarice. You want some food?
Come on, hop on up.
I heard every time a cat meows, an angel gets his wings. Something like that. But yeah, Mr. Potter, he's trash. He's not a redeemable person.
He's a dick.
No, he's terrible. Like he is. He is.
He's a very.
Actually, as George Bailey says, you're a frustrated, warped old man. Like he's just he's a POS.
He's one of those people that even though he's got more money than anybody in the city, he is he is probably miserable.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. Like he looks, like I said, he looks like he's constipated. He looks like he hasn't smiled for a long time. Yeah. And I think he's just, they're like people like that though. There are people like him where there's never enough. Mm-hmm. He could own the whole town. He could own the whole world for all that matter, but he'd still suck. Yeah. He would just be terrible.
He's a real Scrooge.
Absolutely.
Before Scrooge saw the light. Yeah.
Potter does not see the light. In fact,
he doesn't. I think he
probably sees the fiery places of HE double hockey sticks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He never changes his ways in the movie. He never.
He's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, but I'll hold off on the impressions for right now. So I want to talk about some of our favorite moments because there's a number of great moments in this movie. I'll save like the messages and the nice heartfelt stuff towards the end of the episode, because that's where I'm going to leave that. But
so do we want to start kind of towards the beginning?
Yeah, I'm going to go chronologically.
Probably kind of chronologically, yeah.
I'm going to go chronologically. I don't know if you had any notes yourself. I know you had taken some notes.
I did, and I
don't want to overlook them.
I tried to make them chronological, and I'm sure that a lot of these are going to be the same as what
Perhaps.
you have.
It's up to you. I can go off of what I have, or...
Yeah, do you want to go off yours first, and I can add
care.
to... I mean, first I want to just say that I love James Stewart.
He's pretty... Like, he's a man's man, but he played the everyman well.
He did. And,
yes.
I mean, I would have totally married him if I was Mary. Which she was, like, in love with him her whole life, so...
That is one of the scenes I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, that was...
I mean, their overall love story is actually quite nice. And,
I like it.
Towards the end of the episode, I will talk about one of the things that I actually think is pivotal when it comes to their relationship, but I'll save that.
Okay, you go ahead and...
So, first scene that I thought of as, like, being... You know, there's so many good scenes in this, but of course, the high school dance. When they... sort of they knew each other as kids, but like that's the first time they see each other and they're like, oh, like you're good looking.
Yeah, like they see each other across the room and they both just like freeze, and it's like they're the only two people in the room at that point.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But it's a fantastic scene. It's actually a very very comical scene.
And
that's one thing that I don't think people always give credit to It's a Wonderful Life. There actually is some really nice humor, and some of it's actually nice, and it's not like... I don't know how to say this, but like sometimes there's certain movies where like they're PG and their humor really feels PG. Like it just feels like it's oozing clean. This movie, like, even though people aren't swearing and doing things like that, the humor still feels authentic. Yeah. It doesn't feel like somebody's like trying to like, well, I just can't swear right now. Like, no,
I know.
It feels appropriate to the movie, so it's a compliment.
I do. I feel like they kind of even were, in a couple parts, trying to kind of push the envelope a little bit with some of the humor, which I liked. I thought it was cool for as old as the movie is.
Well, because
kind of some of the references in it.
Well, especially shortly after the high school dance, you have the iconic, the Buffalo Gals, why don't you come out tonight? And the very famous, very sweet moment where he's like, whoa, what is it you want, Mary? You want the bone? I'll throw a lasso and pull it down for it. And it's going to go down your mouth, it's going to dissolve, and he gets pretty detailed with it.
Yeah.
But it's actually a very sweet scene. But, and I gotta say, it would be so interesting to go take a time machine, because I have to imagine that there were some crusty, old, very set in their ways audience members that when they saw that scene where they're alluding to Mary being naked and hiding in the bush, I bet that was kind of pushing the limits.
A little risque.
Even they're not showing anything. It's
no.
fine. It's a playful scene.
No.
George is like, this is an interesting situation. And he plays with it, but I didn't see a lot of movies from that time kind of show some innuendo like that.
Yeah.
But I always like that scene.
Yeah,
it's very funny.
Yeah, that was funny. And so she's like all embarrassed, and at first he's kind of like, oh, here, catch, and then wait a second.
Yeah, he's just like, wait a minute. He's like, this doesn't happen every day.
He's like, naked girl in the bush, in there, what can I do with this,
Yeah, but I like that because, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying every young person's like that, but life is too short to keep it straight all the time. I like sometimes rambunctious. I like people to kind of get in trouble a little bit, so.
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I
know that was a very good one.
And then shortly after, this is one of the more, I'd say, like, powerful scenes, and also like super well acted. But the telephone scene. Now this is later when Harry comes back and George is kind of begrudgingly going to Mary's. Like, he loves her. He knows he does, but he's just like, God damn it, I don't want people to be right about my life.
He just takes his sweet time getting there.
He wants to have control, and he feels like he doesn't have control, and that everyone's just kind of telling him.
Yeah, like his
do.
mom's like, you need to go and call on her,
that sucks.
and he heads the opposite direction on purpose, and then he just kind of very slowly makes his way back around to her house.
And, that's something, I'll be honest, like, I can relate to some of that, because there's times where I'm very close with my mother, and there's times where I'm like, damn it, she was right. I'm like, I'm sure anybody that has a parent, you're just like, you kind of get mad a little bit when they know something that you don't know.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about that scene because the telephone scene when Sam Wainwright's on the phone and it's so good because they don't say much, but like the chemistry is oozing across the screen, and you can feel the longing that the both of them have, but they're not able to put it into words. And it's one of the most romantic moments I think I've seen in any movie.
I love that part because you can see them like just inching closer and closer.
Yeah.
And they just have this look on their face, like they're almost like they're kind of scared, but at the same time they're just like, it's like a force that's like drawing them together. And yeah, I love that. And
did you ever have a moment like that with your husband? It's okay if you didn't. If you're never like,
I mean,
you know.
I mean, yeah, like I mean, certain times, yeah, there's definitely times where you're kind of, you know, you have those moments where, oh, this is why I love you so much. You know, like you just have those certain things.
But they're not said.
No.
That's the thing.
No,
like,
you just
moments like that you don't speak.
No,
really.
you kind of keep it to yourself, but you realize that that's why you're attracted to this person, or yeah, I mean, I've definitely had those moments and still do.
Things like that are, I think things like that are endlessly fascinating. And again, most of them you could say are unexplainable, even though a lot of people I would say would just boil it down to they have chemistry.
Yeah.
Or they just like each other, which, like maybe. But I don't know. There's the way that that scene again plays down, excuse me, in the movie, it's just very powerful and it's just pure and it's, I mean, that's, if I've ever seen love on screen, like between characters and even the actors, again, because they it's so convincing.
Yeah.
It's so convincing. It's just, again, I can't sing that scene's praises enough. It's just one of the most convincing, like, romantic moments in a movie I think that I can ever think of. Like,
no, yeah, and I think, I don't think it would have, I don't know. I mean, I think those two were the perfect people to play in this movie. I don't know if you would have had that.
I don't know.
Same.
It's hard to think of.
It's hard to
like.
Yeah, it's hard to put other people.
Well,
in
it'd be
that.
like if somebody like remade it, which God hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. And you know, truth be told, I feel bad. Donna Reed, this was her first starring role, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Because she kills it. Absolutely
yeah,
kills it.
She's awesome.
I feel bad because, and I don't know, maybe I might be in the minority on this, but a lot of people when they talk about older movies of this time, they do tend to focus on actors, but I bet there's a lot of actresses, women, that are forgotten about. And I can promise you, I mean, I fall on the list. I've seen one Donna Reed movie. It is this movie. I have not seen any other movie with her. I'm sure she's great in some other things, and I kind of feel bad about that.
I am guilty of that too. I mean, a lot of times when I'm watching, I will say probably 95% of the time when I'm watching a movie, I'm focusing, well, and I'm a woman, but I'm focusing on the males in the movie. And I'll be honest, like, I don't even have a favorite actress. I can't even name someone that I could name more people, older actresses like Donna Reed. Like, I could name somebody like that as opposed to any new person out there now. Like, I couldn't even, if you ask me, actually the closest I'll get to like a favorite actress is Dolly Parton. I love Dolly Parton.
I don't think I've ever seen
she's
a Dolly
just
Parton
awesome.
Movie. I don't think I have. I know she does music.
Yeah. I got to tell this story because it's Christmassy.
It's fine.
So there is a movie, and it was actually a made-for-TV movie, and it stars Dolly Parton, and it's called Smoky Mountain Christmas. And I've played this movie for my husband and son several times, and they just always, it's kind of one of those like, oh my God, we're gonna watch this again. And do you know who Lee Majors is?
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was growing up, I had a crush on him too. And so, yeah, Dolly was like, she's just like the sweetest person in the world. So how can you not love her?
She does seem pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, so it's called Smoky Mountain Christmas. It's kind of hard to find.
Look this up, people. Smoky Mountain Christmas, Dolly Parton. Find it.
So here's in a nutshell what it's about. She's herself, basically, in the movie. She starts out and she's all bells and whistles, and she gets sick of it. She's sick of the big city. Yeah, your typical, like, it's kind of like Hallmarky. Okay. Kind of.
It's got some cheese to it.
Let's go away from the city and go into the cabin in the woods, and she wants to get away. And
right.
gets to the cabin in the woods, and there's like 6 or 7 little kids living in the cabin, and they came from the orphanage.
Okay.
And yeah, so, and Lee Majors is in it, and it's just, I don't want to tell too much, because if you guys do find this movie, you gotta watch it.
Of course.
I mean, I love it. I grew up watching it. Maybe you guys.
Hey, if you let me know where I can find it, Kim, you know I am open to watching literally just about anything.
I actually have a DVD of it. It's not the best quality.
I might be able to stifle my vomit for the. I could get through not seeing it in pure HD.
Yeah, it's like I said, it was a made for TV kind of movie, so it's not. Yeah, the quality was of this. I don't even know. My sister-in-law found this DVD for me, actually, at like one of those places that sells like obscure movies that you can't find anywhere.
Yes.
And so, yeah, but it's so it's a little fuzzy in spots, but it's actually pretty decent.
I'm always willing to give it a watch, so if I find it or it stumbles across my radar, I will try to watch it.
I will loan it to you sometime.
Very cool.
But it's a sweet movie. It's kind of got a like Snow White feel to a portion of it. There's kind of a weird witch thing. I don't know.
There's a witch?
Yeah, there's a witch in it. Which that part's kind of like you could take that or leave it, but it kind of ties into part of it. So. But it's got a lot going on. It's a Christmas movie. It's just a feel good thing. But yeah. So if I had to choose like a favorite actress, like right now, I'd probably just say Dolly Parton.
See,
somebody older that.
There's a lot of actresses that I like. I'll just without thinking, I'm just gonna rattle off a bunch of names.
Throw one out there.
Here's all actresses that I like: Cate Blanchett, Scarlett Johansson, Natalie Portman, Meryl Streep, Lea Seydoux, Marion Cotillard. Let me think of a few more so that I can be good. Renee Russo, like her.
I was gonna say there's a couple there that I don't even know who they are.
Ana de Armas, I think I'm saying her name right. I like her. Hang on, let me think, people. Don't rush me. And Ken's
we need
just like
silence. We need.
because there's a few others. I like Reese Witherspoon. Robin Wright, or formerly Robin Wright Penn.
Jenny.
Like her. Jenny. Yes, I do like Jenny. Even though Jenny is kind of the villain of Forrest Gump, she literally leaves him with an AIDS.
Yeah, she just
AIDS baby.
She's
kind of terrible. Let me think. Who else? Oh, Emily Blunt. Like her a lot. I already talked about Meryl Streep. Like her. And I want to get 2 more so that I can give the ladies their due credit. Let me think. Rosario Dawson. I like her. And Helen Hunt. There we go. So see, I know.
That's pretty good.
Yeah,
because I couldn't rattle that many off.
No, I know both men and women in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And Helen Hunt I recently watched in As Good as It Gets, which is have you seen that movie?
No.
Jack Nicholson.
I like Jack Nicholson, but...
So it came out in 97, I believe. Both him and Helen Hunt won Oscars for the movie.
Okay. I've heard of it. I've just never seen it.
It is absolutely one... I'll probably be a broken record because I say this a lot when people know me in movies, but it is 100% an absolute favorite movie of mine. I can rewatch it. It's got a lot of rewatchability, and it's just such a sweet movie. That's the best way that I can put it, is that it's just such a charming, well-written, good movie. And I'm so freaking frustrated because
I'll have to check that out.
The movie is not readily available on Blu-ray, which is insane because I don't understand why. It's a fantastic movie. It's written and directed by James L. Brooks.
Old.
No, it's from 97. It's
yeah,
not
so it's
entirely
not really old.
It's got Jack Nicholson. But I've been trying to find a physical copy of that movie for a long time, and I have not been able to find that yet. Of course, they don't have a 4K of it, but I think it's actually on my Amazon wish list. I have some version from Germany or something. So we'll see if I ever pull the trigger on that. But let's get back to.
We'll keep an eye out for that one. Yeah.
It's so good. It's so good. I'm sorry. I can't help. If it comes into my
no,
mind,
that's. I think the only Helen Hunt movie I can think of off the top of my head is Twister, because I love that. I love Bill Paxton.
R.I.P. Bill Paxton.
Yeah,
Like,
I love Bill Paxton.
the guy
so I
was
could watch that movie forever.
truly a national treasure, and to me, that guy's a chameleon of an actor.
He was in, yeah,
he could do anything.
Tombstone. He
Titanic.
was Titanic. Yeah,
Terminator.
Yeah,
Predator 2.
He was like, yeah, that guy that's in so many movies that.
He's so good though.
Yeah.
He was in a really great movie that a lot of people don't talk about called Frailty. I don't know if you've ever
Yes,
seen that.
where he's kind of
Yeah.
psychopath. Yeah.
That's a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And again,
because
not
Matthew
enough people talk about
McConaughey's
that.
in that one.
Yes, yes. And if I might, let me see. I think Bill Paxton, he might have directed that movie.
He may have.
Let me look just because I got to figure this out. It's gonna drive me insane.
We got to know the answer before we can move on.
Yeah, because Frailty came out in 2001. Bill Paxton directed it.
Okay, that's yeah.
It's a really good movie.
It's a little.
It's dark. It's kind of it's a twisted movie,
a little different.
Yeah, very good movie. But yeah, I love Bill Paxton, and
Me too.
Twister's fun. I don't give a shit. Like, it's kind of dumb in some scenes, but it's got Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I mean, it's we live in the Midwest. We're all gonna love Twist, just like Field of Dreams. We're all gonna love it.
Is that because we're in the Midwest?
I don't know. I don't know, but that's why I don't know. I mean, I think you'd have
probably. Well, it would certainly help if you can relate to the location. By being around.
Sure. I'm not gonna say that's the only reason we love it.
No. I mean, I think
there's
a good
more
movie
reasons.
Is a good movie.
Yeah,
like,
I think
it appeals to anybody.
Yeah.
But yes, it does help. Yep. So I got a couple more "It's a Wonderful Life" moments, and then we'll keep going. One, I do very much like the Potter persuasion scene where he tries to get him to work for him. He tries to seduce George. Mm-hmm. I like that scene because, well, for one, Bailey knows that Potter's basically scum. He's terrible. He hated his dad. He hates the Baileys. He hates the town. He hates everything.
He just wants to own everything.
He does want to own everything, but yet he does. I don't know. It's very interesting. Bailey, despite knowing all these things about Potter, he does treat him with respect. Mm-hmm. I mean, the only times that he lashes out at him is when Potter instigates it, right? But otherwise, no. I mean, he may be an enemy, but he's like, okay, I'll hear this guy out, whatever. And for a moment, he is because of his dreams of leaving the city and everything like that, he is a bit wow, shit, this would be great. Mary, we can get out of this drabby old house. I can travel. I can get the hell out of Bedford Falls. This could really start my life open. But then he knows deep down what Potter's all about. Mm-hmm. And that he's just using George as a pawn in his game. And I don't know, I guess I just love that scene because it's yet another instance of the character of George being so inherently good that even though the life that Potter is offering him would likely make him happy on a lot of different levels, he just can't do it. Mm-hmm. He can't do it. And that's what makes him so
down
good.
To that level.
Does not matter how much cash he shoved in front of him. He's like, I won't do it. He has integrity and he has character.
Yep.
Which that's one of the morals of this movie is that character matters over cash.
Yep.
It does. And then let's see, I had a couple other ones. When he's coming unhinged, when he's realizing that Uncle Billy lost the $8,000 and he's really trying to keep it together and not lose his shit in front of his family, but of course he eventually does and starts kicking boxes around. That scene always breaks my heart though because one, it's so well acted. You can see he has huge. I mean, the makeup, they did great with the makeup, making him look just tired and strung out. He's sweaty, but at the same time, you can tell he's trying to keep it all together for the sake of his family. But he's I'm fucked.
He's about ready to just lose it all. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what you think about that, but it's powerful.
Yeah, I agree. And there's the part where the little boy comes and sits on his lap, and he's trying so hard not to just he just keeps hugging him. Maybe if I just keep hugging this little kid, that it'll make it all better. But it just keeps.
I feel as a parent, that scene might even be more effective than it is for me because. I've had my mom and dad both tell me different times where things weren't always going right in their life, but they always tried to keep a good face on for me. They didn't want me to think anything was wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, parents I think have a lot to juggle when they think of like the image that they're presenting for their kids, and they can't like. You can't be perfect. You can't always put on that sunny face for your child.
Yeah.
Like eventually, they're gonna probably see you having a bad day. And
Yeah,
that scene was always very effective.
Yeah, they will, and you try really hard to kids and animals definitely make life better.
Yes.
And I think that's what he was trying. Like he was like, I don't want to let go of my child because if I do, I'm gonna just totally lose it.
Yes.
And he finally just gets to that point where.
But you know what I like about this, and I'll give my mom some credit because we watched that scene, and she even specifically said that one of the reasons that she likes that so much is that he totally realizes that he took it too far, that he like goes overboard.
Yeah.
But again, George Bailey is like one of the best on-screen characters of a good guy portrayed, because even after that, he still is able, even though knowing he's probably going to go to jail and all this stuff is like he's going to lose his whole life, he still is able to muster enough energy to be like, I'm so sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, like he
apologizes to everybody in the room and he doesn't escalate it or take it worse. Like he still manages on the brink of failure and like the brink of just total implosion to not destroy his family with him. I mean, that speaks volumes for the person.
Yeah, that was very powerful. Yeah, he stops and he just looks around and sees, kind of his wrath for the moment there. And
I have to imagine that, because I don't actually know if Frank Capra, if he wrote and directed the movie or if he just directed it. I'd have to go look at the screenplay who wrote it. But I have to imagine that's an element that Jimmy Stewart must have brought to it, where, because like think about it, if you see that written on the page, I mean that's great, but unless you have to have a really good actor that can make that scene, he has to sell it.
Yeah,
you have to sell the emotional stakes in that scene where it's like it's not enough that it's the written word on the page. That's where you need an actor.
And when you say that, I almost think that he did write, but I don't know if you knew this, but it was actually made from. The idea came about because of a Christmas card. It was like I don't remember what year it was, but there was almost like a little booklet that this guy made, and he gave it out to friends and family, like, I don't know, 30 copies of this out to friends and family. And somehow it got out to someone. I don't even remember who. If it was like Cary Grant or I don't know, somebody like in kind of the Hollywood scene or something had saw this or had heard about this. And it wasn't the card or the story back then. It wasn't called It's a Wonderful Life. It was called, I think I actually wrote it down. The Greatest Gift. It was kind of a short story that was kind of made into a Christmas card. And he had given it out to like his friends and family. And I can't remember, I should have wrote the name of the guy that wrote that. But, somehow the story kind of got out, and then it was just adapted. Somebody had took it and kind of ran with it and ended up writing It's a Wonderful Life.
Interesting. From
this story.
No, I did not know that. That's really interesting to think about.
Yeah. So it all started from a Christmas card, basically. And it just kind of, somebody got a hold of I don't know if they had found a copy of this card somewhere, is what I'm guessing. They obviously
developed it into a full story. And,
somewhere along the line they saw that this would be a good story.
Yeah. But, I don't know, to me, like, I still think that the actors have to bring a lot to that because they have to read what's not on the page. They have to instinctually connect to what's being said and like how it should be expressed. And I don't know, it's just I could talk about that for a long time.
Yeah, you can't just look at a script and just read off of it. You have to like become
put yourself in that space.
You have to be. I always say that if you're an actor or actress, I mean, you really to be successful, like you really have to be that person. And I've seen a lot of actors and stuff and actresses that have done that where they pretty much transform themselves into
they put themselves in an extremely vulnerable state, and that doesn't necessarily mean that like every scene an actor does means they have to be breaking down or crying. It doesn't mean that, but even in scenes where they're just being how the character is, that's vulnerable. You have cameras on you. You have, all these things that are going around you that are trying to set the scene and get the lighting just perfectly right on you so that you can deliver this moment. So yeah, I'm always in complete awe of actors, and I think Jimmy Stewart, the guy was he's a phenomenal actor.
Yeah.
Is my cat behind there? What is she? What is she doing?
She's just.
She laying down.
She's kind of cozying into a little foam piece of something like packing foam.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I just wasn't sure. I heard her making a noise back there. I was like,
Yeah, she's trying to weasel into it, I think.
Very last scene. It's not really a scene, but it's just a scene stealer. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Clarence.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, how could I not talk about this movie and talk about Clarence? He's kind of he's a little bit of a dope. He's not like dumb. He's not dumb by any reason, but like as they say, like he has kind of like the maturity level of a child. He's just very innocent.
Yeah, he's not. He doesn't really look like an angel. I mean, he just looks like some guy.
No, I don't know who that actor is, and I feel bad because sorry, guy that played Clarence.
I wish I would have wrote down everybody's names, but
but I do like him, and he also had some great comedy. I mean, even like when he jumps into the water, he's like, help, help! He's kind of being obnoxious.
He's funny. Yeah, he was very.
And then he just acts all nonchalant, just like, what? Like, don't people know? Like, I'm an angel second class. Like, I'm 200 like some years old. Like, let me get this kind of drink. Like, he just does all these odd things.
Yeah.
And he acts like it's normal, but I don't know. I probably won't be able to articulate all my thoughts on the character Clarence, but I do like that his character's funny, but he is also really the saving grace of George, where if you don't understand what this guy is trying to tell him by showing him what it'd be like if he wasn't born, it wouldn't work. I mean, a lot of the movie actually is riding on this moment to see that. And in fact, it's just interesting because the whole movie, up until that point, is extremely realistic and just kind of grounded. And then when you get to that point, that's where it's like, oh, now we're in fairy tale land. Like now we're in fantasy, if you want to call it that, because it's the only time in the movie where it's taking reality and stretching it. But I'm gonna ask you the deep question, Kim. If you were not born, what do you think would happen? Like, what do you think, what would happen if you did not exist?
I kind of thought about this, and I didn't think of it in that regards. Like, I didn't think of what if Kim was never born. But I guess, I don't know if I can clarify what it would be like if I specifically was not born. But I do like, and I'll go back to the movie, I do like the fact that one person really truly can make a huge difference in the world.
Yeah, their ripple effect.
Yeah,
your life touches other people.
Yeah, and you don't even know it. I mean, I would like to think that, I've touched people or that I've done things in my past that have helped people that maybe wouldn't have been able to get out of a situation. Or, right. I mean, I'm always willing to jump in and, put myself out there whenever anybody needs help or in a crisis or any, I'm pretty good under that kind of situation. But yeah, just watching just that part of the movie that, I mean, you want to believe that if you didn't exist in the world, that there would be an impact. Yeah. Just because of, people you've run into, you like to think you made a difference in at least one person's life.
Well, the thing is, so there's a couple of different ways I think you can look at the question of if you're not born, what does it do? So I think from one instance, what you're kind of talking about, like the actual physical act of helping people, that's a thing. You can quantify that and be like, if I was not there to physically do that, then that would not happen, and so on and so forth. There's that aspect of it, but then I think there's the other aspect of the things that you don't do. Yeah. So even like just your presence and who you are, someone that you might not even know might look at you and be like, Kim makes my day nice. Or like, I like Kim. Or just something about you might, for better or worse, be something that person carries with them. Or another way to look at it would be, how you might inspire somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because certain things I don't think happen unless other people touch another person and
Yeah.
make them either think about an idea or act on it or push them to it. So I think a person's life has a couple of different ways that it tends to channel off of one another and affect things. But specifically, I want to get specific. You do not exist right
Well,
now. I came down. I have wings. I didn't tell you about
well,
this.
and another thing too, when you're talking about all that is, I start thinking, okay, if I was never born, that means like my son would never have been born.
Sure.
Like he wouldn't exist. He wouldn't
Yes.
be here to do the things that he's done in his life or the things that he'll do in the future.
Yeah.
Like he plays music, like maybe down the road he'll be someone that brings joy to people with his music. I mean, he does already do some of that, but who knows what he'll do down the road. So, if I didn't exist, he wouldn't exist, because even if my husband would end up with a different person because I didn't exist,
right,
it wouldn't be the same, my son wouldn't be the same.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I could answer the question for myself. Aside from the obvious, I mean, if I don't exist, then my brothers, they might not have the same relationship they have with each other, assuming they still exist.
Yeah.
So the dynamic would be different with our family, I suppose. I don't know. I think there's been a time or two where I've been really like nice to somebody and helped.
Yeah.
So perhaps those things would not happen. I wouldn't be able to buy movies. So I don't know. Maybe some Blu-ray or DVD company out there is just like, man, it's too bad Jordan doesn't exist anymore, because he used to buy a lot of our shit.
He bought all our movies.
I don't know. I do that. I don't know. It makes me think, because like I guess I probably wouldn't be able to fully, unless I have Clarence come down and like remove me from my life and let me actually witness it. Which he is not wrong in the movie. It's a pretty phenomenal gift to be like that's. Can you imagine, like, if you actually got to, like, even if it was for, like, an hour, to be like, hey, you get to see what it's like to see.
Yeah, be like, okay, God, give me this power, and I'm going to
It is a
pursue,
power.
It is.
An absolute power. It's fascinating to think about, but what it makes me think about, ultimately, is that even though I might not know all the different ways that my life would, hopefully for the better, impact people, it does make me think about my legacy. And I'm not really necessarily somebody that sits around going like, I hope I'm remembered 100 years from now. I mean, it'd be nice, I suppose. Like, if it's for something great, I guess, or just something good. But, I don't know. It makes me think about legacy and, like, what do I want my life to mean to other people? It is interesting. I don't have an answer for it. It's just I'm pondering.
Well, yeah, I don't either. And it's hard to think of on the spot when when you're asked that certain questions like that. But, I don't know. I always just think, I always think that you should live your life as that person that you want to be remembered by. Like when you're gone and people look back and say, Jordan, I remember Jordan. Like, what do you want them to remember about you? Like.
I think if I could answer the question right now, I would say it's a two-parter. I would say one, the people thing would probably come first. I would want to be either fondly remembered or looked upon by people that knew me as somebody that person was a good person in their life and they made the world around them be a better place. Like, that would be like the first one. That'd be fine. But then the second one, for more of like an actual, like maybe like a physical thing to leave behind, I'm not going to invent something or whatever, but I would like to maybe perhaps be, this might sound a little far-fetched or maybe a little off, but one of the things I love about actors and filmmaking in general is that they're able to encapsulate all these hardworking people into a 2-hour movie, right? And they leave it behind. It's something to leave behind, and it lasts, presuming if it's well taken care of and preserved. Maybe the National Film Archives take it, I don't know. But I would like to maybe have some portion of my life where I maybe physically left behind either a piece of work or a piece of something that really encapsulated kind of like me and what I was all about, and was able to give people some type of joy or experience or something like that. I think that would be like my ultimate wish. So I didn't even
something to leave people with. Like if you just like walked away
Yeah, if I were to like just be gone tomorrow, if I died, like just I got something that people could look back at that and be like, well, we'll always have that to go back to, and that
Maybe
means
your
a lot to me.
podcast.
I don't know.
It's fun, you know. I mean, be proud of it.
I like it. Yeah, I still have a lot of work to do on it, but I also have some other things outside of the podcast. It's kind of some of those things I mentioned that it would be an off the podcast conversation for now because I don't want to burst the bubble too soon for what I'm trying to plan. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, at the very least I like this stuff. I mean, I like podcasting. It's fun. And I can save this stuff, and yeah, it'd be fun to like, go back like years from now and be like, oh, listen to how I talked about that.
Well, yeah, and even to me, you're bringing some fun and happiness into people's lives because if you're just sitting around and you're, kind of contemplating things or not sure what's going on, or you're just, sometimes, just music or just like a podcast, you could just turn it on and just listen to people just talk about.
Yeah.
I mean, podcasts and stuff are everywhere, and they're all about different topics. So, I mean, pretty much, I would assume pretty much anything you want to hear about is probably out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And music. I mean, music is. I always turn on music when I'm just need something extra.
I think I thought of maybe the third thing. Possibly for myself. I don't know. It's very mixed with like the second thing I said, so perhaps, but so I recently, maybe not that recently, I watched the movie A Star Is Born. The new one. The Bradley Cooper with Lady Gaga.
I haven't seen either one of them. So.
I will say really quickly, Isola, my fiance, I don't think she'll be mad at me for saying this, but she loves to make fun of Lady Gaga and her song "The Shallow." I'm sure you've heard it on the radio. In the shallow.
I don't even know if I've heard it. But
well, there's a part.
I probably have and just don't know. But
there's a part in the song. I won't fully do it because it would be embarrassing. But there's a part, and it's a beautiful moment in the movie. It really is. It's a wonderful moment in the song and the movie where Lady Gaga goes into like this part where she's like, and then she goes like, I'm doing a horrible version of it, but like it's beautiful because the character's fully coming out of her shell and is not giving a shit. And it's a beautiful moment. But Isola thinks it sounds like a little bit obnoxious when she does it because it's like she's almost screaming. She's like, yeah. Anyway, Isola, if you're listening, it's funny when you make fun of that. I can't do it the way you do it. But the point is with bringing that up is that there's actually a part in the movie where Bradley Cooper's character, he's talking about how there's not many people in the world that really have something to say. Like they're either borrowing from somebody else or they're just kind of going with the flow or whatever, but true originality and just truly saying something from your gut and putting it out there, I think I would like to maybe be able to say I did that at one point in my life where I didn't draw it on from something. I just purely put some part of myself out there for people to see. That's
a good one. I like that one too.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of times like we could sit here all day and do like impersonations from movies or whatever. Fun. And it is fun. And you can sit here and one-liners from, your favorite shows or movies, and we could do that all day long. But to actually sit and come up with something, an original Jordan or original Kim saying, like something that just comes out. Like I would love to be able to do that too. And I don't know, I'm sure we have done something that people are kind of like, what?
I think sometimes this stuff happens unconsciously. You can't always force things like that, for sure. I mean, even the times I know in my own life where if I've ever done something that surprises me or I feel like has made some type of an impact, or it's something I've said, it's definitely not planned. Yeah. It's just I feel something and I just really don't overthink it and just kind of do it.
And then after you say it, you're like,
whoa. I just said that. Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, and hopefully that's a good thing because sometimes that can happen in arguments.
Well, I mean,
you
it
say
can
like
go
this
both
thing
ways.
where you're I'm sure you've had that happen where like if you're in a really bad mood or something, you say something, and like as it's coming out of your mouth, you're just like, I'm gonna regret that. No, I can't take it back. And then it's just like, no, it's out there. Yep. You're screwed.
Oh yeah, and then or you say something just totally stupid, and you're like. I can't believe I just said that right now, but
Yep,
but
can.
as it's like you said, as it's leaving your mouth,
It's such a strange sensation. When
yeah,
it happens.
you're like, no, come back, but you can't because it's already out there.